Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader, reading books for you. Today I will be reading Two Worlds, a novel of friends and foes from strange places, by Laura T. Lee. Before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to the author for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I've included links where you find and purchase this book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 67. The look on Tara's face was enough to make Lily and her friends jump to their feet. "What is it?" Stacy said. "Come and see." Tara turned on her heel and scrambled up the ladder precariously, leaving the others no choice but to quickly follow. When they reached the roof, Lily whispered, "Oh no." The police, surrounding the library, were curled up on the debris-littered asphalt, huddling their weapons and snoring audibly. The rest of New York moved around them normally, taking no notice of the strange event. "They can't see us," Jake said. "No," Stacy agreed. "If you look at an angle, you can see a faint shimmering dome surrounding the area. To the citizens, the place would look like a closed library." It was then that Lily noticed someone at the scene stepping out of her car and walking around the rubble of the library, clearly confused. Jake blinked. "If that's Sophie, then what is she doing at the scene?" "It isn't," Lily retorted. Before anyone could stop her, she was sliding down the ladder and sprinting as fast as she could toward her mother. "Mom!" Lily grabbed her mother's shoulder and spun her around. Her mother looked at her with confused eyes. "Lily, what happened to the library? Why are the policemen on the ground sleeping? I was just trying to get lunch." Lily decided to play out the act for all it was worth. She looked at the library for a few seconds, then looked back at her mother with a puzzled look on her face. "What do you mean? Nothing happened to the library. There's nobody sleeping on the ground. Look at it again from farther away." Lily led her mom away from the scene until they were a few feet away from the edge of the dome before turning around. The transformation of the library surprised Lily. Instead of scattered heaps of rubble and a flattened foundation with slumbering officers around it, there stood the library as it was for the past 75 years, tall with brick walls that the sunlight shone brightly on. "Well, I guess I was dreaming," Lily's mother said, with a light laugh. She crossed over to her car, said goodbye to Lily, and drove away to track down a lunch somewhere. Lily turned and saw Stacy jumping up and down and waving her arms frantically for Lily to come. Whatever her friend saw, it probably wasn't good. Lily ran as fast as she could, and a minute later she was gasping for air on the roof. Once she got her air back, she coughed out, "What's wrong?" "I just sent out a proximity scan with my computer," Stacy explained. "We found something you might want to look at," Jake added. Stacy spun the computer around for Lily to see. The screen displayed a tiny purple dot on a black background, representing their location. The dot was sending out waves in every direction, but there was a yellow flashing square rapidly closing in on the dot. "Squares only show up if there's someone that isn't human or an animal nearby," Stacy said. For a while, Lily and her friends stared at the screen, unable to make heads or tails of it. Suddenly, Lily felt herself yanked backward. She went sprawling on the roof. Tara knelt next to her. "Get down!" she hissed. Stacy immediately closed the computer and looked up. Jake began to rise from his sitting position, but Tara kicked at him and he fell over. "Stay low and get down the ladder," she ordered. "Sophie's coming." That sentence brought Lily back to her senses. She crawled to the ladder and slid down, her friends following closely. They ducked into the alley from which they had come and hid behind a large dumpster as the sky darkened. The fear in the silence that came next energized the air. Lily peered out from behind the dumpster at the entrance to the alley and saw nothing. Maybe Sophie hadn't seen them. Maybe she was gone already. A foot stepped into view and Lily held her breath, pressing her back to the dumpster. But she had the courage to peek out as Sophie walked past. Gray bolts of energy crackled from her fingers, causing the asphalt to bubble and blister. The sight reminded Lily of a younger, more malicious, lady version of Emperor Palpatine. The thought made Lily shudder. Instantly, the footsteps stopped. Lily tried to calm her jumping nerves as the footsteps started getting louder. Sophie was getting closer. Next to Lily, Stacy squeezed her eyes shut. Sophie stopped 5 feet from the dumpster. Lily didn't dare look at her. She and the others held their breath and waited. 10 seconds passed. Then 30 more seconds dragged by. Lily's air was running out. Right when her lungs felt like they were going to burst, the footsteps started again, quickly going away and disappearing. Lily forced herself to hold her breath for a little longer before she exhaled. Lily and her friends cautiously crept out of the alley, scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. Tara, who had taken hold of Lily's wrist, suddenly gave a sharp cry. Lily felt her friend being yanked backward, the grip on her wrist becoming painfully tight. She whipped around just in time to see Tara fall back, disappearing into the wall, a look of surprise on her face. Soon she had been sucked in completely, except for her right hand. Lily's wrist twisted as she tried to pull Tara out. But as her wrist was wrenched sideways, she was forced to release her hold. In a matter of seconds, it all ended. Lily's hand was empty, resting against the brick wall of the building, and Tara was gone. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for Chapter 68. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book.